Good morning. Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. So, today we are going to be talking about a wellness wheel. And so, I don't know if you guys have heard of this concept before. This is something that you're familiar with, but usually a wellness wheel will come into play when we talk about holistically all different aspects of your health and wellness. And so a lot of times when we think about health and wellness, good morning, Wendy, we think about it just in regards to what we're consuming, or we think about it just in regards to physical activity, or sometimes we think about it in regards to mental capacities, right? And so all of these are aspects of health and wellness, but there are a lot more components into it that I think oftentimes get missed. And so depending on which wellness wheel you use, it'll have somewhere between 8 to 12 categories. And so we will be using the rest of the month of August to go through these categories. And so the wellness wheel that I'm using lists the following topics. So we have physical health, we have health, we have physical activity, we have home cooking, relationships, we have social life, joy, spirituality, creativity, finances, career, and education. And so it seems like a lot of components, and it's interesting to see how they kind of interconnect. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So today, the three that we are going to kind of dive into a little bit more deeply is joy, spirituality, and creativity. And so I think what's most important is to realize that these words have different connotations for different people. And so when we talk about joy, for example, joy is not happiness. Okay, so happiness is a feeling, it kind of comes and goes, but joy is something that is spiritual. It's something that is interconnected to your soul, right? And so when we talk about this, know that you've already kind of seen how the two are intertwined. And so as you go through the wellness wheel, and I will link I love a little site down below for you guys to, complete. It takes literally less than like 3 minutes for you to guys to do it and see kind of where your outliers are and where you might not even realize that you feel fulfilled. And one of those might be joy. Are you a joyous person? Are you someone that can find, happiness, can find things to be grateful and thankful for? Do you feel blessed? Those types of things. And so when we talk about that, I also kind of want to talk about spirituality. And so spirituality basically is the ability to find peace and harmony. And so without joy, you're not having peace. Without spirituality, you're not having peace. And so how those kind of interconnect and play on different things. So think about that in relationship to other aspects of the wheel that were mentioned earlier. So if you are not joyous, if let's say you're really, really stressed, or we are anxious, we are sad, how does that interrelate with the food that we consume? Are we more likely to eat off plan? Are we more likely to stress eat? Are we more likely to binge? Are we more likely to do the things that we know isn't helping us in regards to our health, right? And so tons of fatty foods or things that are highly processed aren't really helping us in regards to other aspects of the wheel as well. And so this kind of gives you an example of how everything intertwines, right? And so the other component of the triad, for today was creativity. And so I think this one I'm going to dive into a little bit deeper because of the fact that everybody goes, well, what if I'm just not a creative person, Charlotte? Like, I don't craft, I don't sew, I don't do that like Cricut thing, I don't know what any of that is. Like, I don't paint, I don't draw, like, I don't have any, God-given talents in regards to creativity. And so what I will tell you is that creativity is not just something that you do in regards to things that are pretty or making crafts. Creativity is also self-care, and it's also in other wheels you will see that have not so many pegs on them, like ours is 12 that we're going to go through. But the ones that have, let's say, 8 to 10, a lot of times you'll see this as environmental. Okay. And so thinking on the term environmental, that a lot of times means expanding knowledge and skills. And so it also means self-care. So intellectually identifying creativity and your ability to be creative. Okay. And so some of this could be as simple as, what do you do to grow yourself? What do you do to make sure that you're a better person today than you were yesterday? So some of this could be self-reflection. Some of this could be diving into a really good book that you feel like is about self-care, about some of the things that you potentially know that you have struggles with. So if it's emotional eating, or maybe it's anxiety, or, maybe it's six one, half a dozen another, like there are thousands of ways that we can better ourselves. Maybe it is actual physical movement. That is a form of, creativity. So like I will tell you, I don't get a chance to be crafty very often unless it's with, Elmer's glue and washable Crayola markers right now in the season of my life. But I used to really love scrapbooking, which I feel like is a lost art. I used to love quilting. I used to love doing those things. But for right now, that is something that, time management wise, I don't have time for. But there are other ways that I'm able to fulfill that one aspect of the will. And so for me, that would be movement. And so, kind of a background, I used to dance. I used to love dancing, and it's always been a creative expression for me. And so dancing is kind of difficult right now for me to take dance classes and things like that. But movement is one way that I can still express myself. And so exercise is a way that I have the ability to be creative. So like when I go into the gym, I can make my own workout. I can do what I want. I can do cardio. I can do a class. I can do weightlifting. So for me, that's an aspect of being creative, as well as, writing. It could be music. It could be songs. I know some of you guys are musically inclined as well, but it's, what do you do for you? When we talk about creativity, what do you do that is authentic to you, that fills your cup? So this could be, listening to music. Maybe it's relaxing for you to listen to classical music. Any of these aspects are ways that you can kind of round out that wellness will. And so that's kind of what I wanted to start off with this week. And then, as we move into the next few weeks, we'll be going over, 3 or so of these topics. We'll be diving into each of these. But if you are watching this on the replay, if you could let others know, of these 3, which one do you feel like you probably need the most work in? Which one of these 3 do you feel like you could kind of dive into a little bit better? You could see other aspects of your life kind of come together and be a little bit less rigid if you had more time devoted to, being joyous. So actually taking the time and effort to say, hey, what am I grateful for today? What do I feel like I have been blessed with? Studies have shown through multiple studies in regards to psychology that just being conscientious of the good allows you to see the blessings and kind of break out of the cycle of negativity. And so having joy in your life is huge for your wellness. It's huge for you to have motivation and dedication to the things that you know that you need to do to get to where you want to go on your journey. Spirituality. Are you at peace with yourself? Are you at peace, to know that where you are is where you're supposed to be? And if not, then how do we get there, And then also, the last thing, creativity, self-care, environmental, they all are the same thing, just labeled differently. And so if you have one of those 3 that you feel like is kind of where you need to isolate care to, let me know in the comments below, and we can always kind of chat back and forth on what potential things we could do to incorporate in our day to kind of fill up those aspects of our life, to kind of round out that wheel. And so I will also, like I said earlier, I will list the link down below. So you'll want to take that quiz. Literally, it takes you less than like 30 seconds. But what it's going to do is it's going to give you all components of the actual wheel. And then from there, we're going to actually be able to see, where do you have divots in the wheel? Where do you have things that are outliers? So we want the wheel to be as round as possible. But if we have little concaves in it, you think about it as a wheel, it's going to go boop, 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 it's not going to roll very well. And so if we had lots of divots in where we feel like we're not getting fulfilled, we're going to have a wheel that doesn't roll at all, right? And so the point of this would be to allow yourself the ability to see, because a lot of times we go through the same rhythms and cycles and habits, and we don't realize what's missing and why we can't get to where we want to go. And maybe it's because our will isn't a wheel. Maybe our will is just kind of a little blob that's not able to roll. So Wendy says that self-care and emotional eating, yeah, I would agree that those are huge, huge. And those are struggles that so many of us go through. Self-care is something that I think as women, a lot of times we put on the back burner because we want to give to others. It's our innate, distinctive things that kind of comes naturally to us. And then emotional eating, it's so easy to get caught up into that trap. So I agree that acknowledging those things is the first step to being able to kind of round out that wheel, and then giving yourself a few steps to be able to go, okay, am I really hungry? Why am I eating right now? Self-care, knowing, okay, how do I feel right now? Do I feel like I'm empty? If I feel pretty empty, what can I do to fill up my cup? We fill into everybody else's cup all day long, every day. And a lot of times when it gets to the end of the day, we just don't have the energy to do self-care for us. And so what potentially could you, put in the day, even if it's just, having 5 minutes to read, and having a great drink that you enjoy, just setting that time out to make time for you and put you as priority. Those are huge things to us being able to have a more rounded sense of self-care. So if you guys have any other comments, questions, concerns, let me know in the comments below. But I am so excited about the wellness wheel. I'm excited to see when you guys take the quiz, what you guys feel like your big divots are. And then from there, if you'll post those below, then that way when we go into those in the next few weeks, I'll make sure to actually, talk and pinpoint those specific things that you feel like are ones that you want to work on, or that you feel like are something that you really need to dedicate time to. So if you'll let me know what yours are, then, and if you don't feel like you want to share in the comments below, you can always DM me too. That's always an option. So you're so welcome, Wendy. I'm so glad that you felt like that was beneficial. And I hope that this was beneficial to others of you guys that are watching this on the replay. Know that we are not alone in this, that this is something that is constantly ever evolving, constantly ever shifting and changing and balancing. Our wheel might be really well rounded one day, and then things happen in life, circumstances and situations to where our wheel gets kind of imbalanced, like when we're talking about driving a car, and when you first get your new tires, everything is great and awesome. And then you hit that pothole. And from there on out, you got the little wah, 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 your steering wheel is kind of crazy, right? And so that kind of happens just with us in regards to our journey. We're going to get out of balance sometimes, and just being able to acknowledge it, how often do we keep going? We keep driving and we're like, oh no, the wheel really isn't that bad. It's not bouncing that bad. No, I'm really not like, veering into the other lanes when I take, my hands off the wheel in regards to like balancing the car. A lot of times we're just in denial of the things that we know that we need to do. And so I ask you to take some time in self-reflection. Are you joyous? Do you have spirituality to give you peace and calm? And then what are you doing to be creative? What are you doing to have self-care and fulfill yourself? So let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Bye.